If you hate Donald Trump, you are a victim of the 19 gaslighting tactics by the left. You can and will recover. Good morning, America. I'm here to talk to you about 19 ways the left is gaslighting Americans. America is such a beautiful country. We have life, we have liberty, we have freedoms, we have faith. America is comprised of such great people. The noble actions and kindness that goes on daily across thousands of communities is remarkable. If you look across America, you will see millions of people in person and on social media, Democrats and Republicans, with and without masks, standing up for our freedoms that we hold so dear. And you will see a small minority of people, mostly in Democratic-run states, destroying America. But then there is a third group of people, a group of people who are victims of abuse of the power of the mind and of the media. These people believe falsehoods are true, but it is not their fault. The left, the media, the Democrats have done such a good job of manipulating people's minds, of gaslighting them, and people are confused. Knowledge is power. So that is why we're going to explain their gaslighting tactics to you. The left have used reporters to cut and paste stories, leave out context, and fabricate complete falsehoods and bring the American people the Democratic bait. They report based on minimal fact and mostly fiction, agenda and attraction, mob and money, and brainwashing, and the other word that starts with a B. But we are all mandated reporters. A mandated reporter is different than a biased reporter. A mandated reporter is a person who, because of his or her profession, is required to report any suspicious activity of abuse or neglect to the relevant people. Our profession is an American patriot, and we need to report the gaslighting and suspicious activities to the Americans who are sitting in their confusion. Today, I talk to America as an American mandated reporter. As November 3rd is 50 days away, I feel obligated to share the 19 tactics of gaslighting that the left engaged and continue to engage in. You have some very great people you can listen to hear details about politics and what is going on in the world. You can listen to Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, so many more. And of course, you can listen to our President Donald Trump himself to know the truth about exactly what is going on. Here, my focus is on the psychology behind what is happening. So 19 types of gaslighting. Yes, gaslighting leads to confusion. Gaslighting is a tactic in which a person or entity, in order to gain more power, makes the victim question their reality. So somebody manipulates their spouse to the point where the spouse thinks they're losing their mind. Gaslighting. Someone manipulates another where they can't even discern what is true fact anymore. Gaslighting. This is the very definition of the left. America as we know it is being abused by the far left, by Democrat governors, by a leftist-controlled agenda on media, by shows, by using complete lies, using rappers, forgetting timelines, cutting and pasting words, copycatting Trump 90 days later, and on and on. That is why so many Democrats are victims of abuse without even realizing it. We, as Americans, need to help these victims by explaining them how gaslighting looks and what the left do to skew such narratives. The first type of gaslighting is called cut and paste. Cutting and pasting stories to mix up two stories, leave out important relevant facts, and create a new false narrative. With media, this looks very real. The mind starts to get confused. So for example, in their agenda they say, here's a picture of children at the border, when in reality they cut and pasted that picture from Obama's time, but people forget that. The second form of gaslighting is context. So if you notice the press secretary, and a big shout out to Kaylee, she constantly has to ask the reporters to read the end of the quote, right? Or to talk about the context of when. And also, what is this number you bring up in context to in reality? They just keep repeating how many people died from COVID-19 with no context whatsoever. Just repeating it and repeating it. Never mind we have the lowest mortality rate in the world because of President Trump. Never mind Biden wants to keep the borders open longer and call Trump out on closing them. And under a Biden, we would have had way more deaths. Never mind how fast Trump got equipment that saves thousands of lives that based on Biden's track record, he would never have been able to do. Never mind Trump is following the science and not the left's political so-thought advantage of trying to prolong a pandemic. All they can keep repeating is 194,000 deaths. I'm sad about every single person who passed. And so is President Trump. But it's pathetic to say he was the cause of any deaths. I just did a quick analysis on 4 years that Biden was in office as vice. And do you know that 182,000 Americans died of flu under his watch? I mean, what was he thinking, not stopping their deaths? I mean, come on. These narratives leave people confused because obviously people care about deaths. And notice they just keep saying 194,000 people died during this time. Do they even care about the people who died? No. They just care to say it was Trump's fault, in quotes. I don't hear them printing lists of the people who passed. I just hear Trump's name, Trump's name, Trump's name. This is what the left want to do, to take you out of context, to confuse you. Also, context is when you chop words from a sentence without the full quote. Look at this sentence. You don't need to wear a mask in your house. Someone on the left can say, I just said you don't need to wear a mask. Of course I said those words, but it's part of a longer sentence. But they may provide audio footage of just the first part of the sentence and say, look, it's true. This is all manipulating the minds of the American people. A third type of gaslighting is the timeline. Now the left is all busy saying Trump plays down the virus. So first we go back to context. He said things to instill calm in America, whereas Biden may have had a panic-filled America creating more deaths. Do you know that when there's a fire in a building, the best thing you can do is stay calm and leave? Panic causes people to not think clearly and can cause more deaths. But let's look at the timeline. So Nancy in February is in Chinatown making like it's nothing, but she gets a pass. Why? Because she's on the left. When there are 0 reported cases, Trump starts to take action. On January 31st, when Trump puts a travel ban, Biden says xenophobic. In February, what Trump said matched what was happening in February. In March, what Trump said matched what was happening in March, and so on. By the way, Biden is 3 months behind. He reports what Trump says 3 months later, but Trump actually has it down pat. Again, the media's words is all a form of gaslighting. This is Biden and the media's only tactic. In the past, like 50 years ago, Democrat candidates had actual policies to talk about, and since Biden knows America does not want his policies, he is left manipulating the mind, convincing you, don't go for Trump. His whole campaign is not even go for me, it's don't go for Trump. This says a lot. The fourth type of gaslighting is contradiction, hypocrisy, and confusion. Mixed messages are also a form of abuse. Harris says to continue the riots. They keep mixing up peaceful protests with riots. They stand for life but kill people in riots. They also support abortion but want to limit meat intake, so people are just so confused. They say they accept everyone, that they accept everyone except all the people who don't fit their agenda, which is most of America. You need to wear a mask, but Democratic government officials don't. Democratic states only want casinos, bars, and riots open, but no rallies, no place of worship, and no school. There is so much contradiction and hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is there on purpose to confuse and control the minds of the American people. The fifth type of gaslighting is the copycat. I want to validate all the people here and now who want to scream when all of a sudden they see Biden writing about some of our favorite Trump policies, literally 50 days before election. Trump says we need to create a travel ban due to the virus. A few months later, Biden thinks it's a good idea. Trump says to open schools safely. A few months later, Biden says open schools safely. Trump strongly condones and condemns riots daily. A few months later, Biden condemns riots. Trump creates jobs in America. Now Biden says he will create jobs. Buy America. Place a tax on jobs shipped overseas. This is what Biden has not done in his time in office and what President Trump has yes done. You know, Biden, actions speak louder than words. It's idiotic what is going on. This is good news, though. You can all vote for Trump, every single American, because Biden supporters know But I do want to point out here, this is pure gaslighting. People are so confused. People are telling me policies saying they're from Biden, when in fact they're literally word for word Trump policies. And that's what the left want. They want you to think they are doing all the things you love about President Trump. And don't get me wrong, they are never going to do it. They want you to forget that Biden was in government for over 40 years and has not done these things even after he said he would. My friends, if you hate Trump, you can and will recover from the abuse. The sixth type of gaslighting is switching your agenda to say what people want to hear. Now, Biden is flipping and switching his agenda to what you want to hear. You want to hear yes? He says yes. You want to hear no? He says no. With the help of a teleprompter, Biden is programmed to respond to what is best for his audience. This reminds me of a story my mother actually told me when I was a kid. So there was this doctor, and he wanted all his patients to like him. It was before the time of sonograms, and he wanted to predict the baby's gender correctly, and he must be right. He needed to be right. He wanted everyone to know he's right. So what he did was he told the patient that it was a girl. Every single patient that came in, he told them they're having a girl. And in the chart, every single patient, he wrote it's a boy. So he was always right, because if they had a girl, he told them it's a girl. If they had a boy, he said, no, I wrote in the chart it's a boy. And the mom would think she was going crazy. She's like, what? You told me it's a girl. And he'd say, no, look in the chart. I said boy. That's Biden. That's gaslighting. The seventh type of gaslighting is distraction. They use a lot of distraction to cause confusion. Distraction is bringing in things with no connection. Like bringing in a rapper is a complete distraction, and that's their point. COVID-19 is a distraction. Media pulling out clips from February when no one knew what they know now is distraction. The distraction, again, confuses you. You get stuck on it. It's like when you're talking about an important topic, like re-electing a president who created more jobs and an all-time low unemployment rate, and you start talking about a rapper's words, then you get all confused. It's on purpose. It's all gaslighting. The next type of gaslighting, the eighth type, is when they give wrong impression to give a wrong narrative. So ahead of the 2016 election, I would train people. Do not just read the headline. The media is paid to create a headline that looks anti-Trump. So I would tell people, read the words of the article. The goal is to get you to hate Trump. It is not about our American culture, not about our values, not about improving our lives in America. In fact, if doing something to ruin it for people makes people hate Trump, it fits the left's agenda. They said all these things horrible things would happen under Trump, and yet bad things didn't happen. I asked people straight out, did your taxes decrease? They say yes. Did you get a stimulus check?